guys, welcome back to the Stone and Clay podcast. This is episode 142. Today we have an awesome guest. This is Dr. Jennifer Finlayson-Fife, which just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? You couldn't have just stuck with Fife.
No.
Okay, well, that works. Dr. JFF.
That's right.
Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Jennifer is, an appellation you tend to have is the Mormon sex therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure was that sort of thrust upon you? No pun intended.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Just kind of, there wasn't a lot going on in that space. And
right.
I wrote my dissertation in 2002, but kind of before the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as my kids were getting a little more established and the internet was actually happening, I was invited onto a podcast and to be interviewed about my dissertation research on Latter-day Saint women and their relationship to sexuality and their sense of self. And so that just kind of went viral to my specific group, and was really touching a need. And so that really was kind of the launch of the work I do.
Okay, very cool. So specifically your dissertation was about what exactly?
Well, I was looking at the question of, I don't know how much to tell you about the story of it, but I was actually asked to teach human sexuality to undergrads at Boston College, which is a largely Catholic Jesuit school. And so a lot of the men and women were writing essays about their personal experiences, and I could see a lot of kind of challenge, especially within the women in their relationship to sexuality, a lot of shame and anxiety. I was trying to come up with a dissertation topic, and I was really thinking about what are Mormon women's experience? Like, do they feel a sense of peace and ease around sexuality? How are they transitioning into marriage? And so that just became the focus, was to look at women who had grown up within a conservative LDS religion, were still active in the religion, and were now married. And what was their experience of their body, of sexuality? How was that transition into marriage and a sexual relationship? And I was just looking at what were the factors for women who transitioned poorly into an intimate relationship, and what were the factors for women who transitioned well. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what's the conclusion?
What was the takeaway?
Yeah.
Well, basically it was very interesting because most of the women fit my hypothesis, which is in a kind of male-led institution, the focus is going to basically be focused on men's sexuality more than women's sexuality.
And their desires and needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so women are kind of, their sexuality, they understand it in reference to men's needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my question, was this, because there's some feminist literature out there that suggests this is what happens, if you look at very starkly patriarchal societies, you can see that women's sexuality is considered a threat or secondary. And so I was curious, is this what Mormon women's experiences are? And for most of the women, it was that. They really thought about sex as something you do for a future spouse, that keeping yourself pure is primary, that it's a way of earning your value, and then it's just something you do to serve his needs. And so they were quite disconnected from it, did not like sex, felt like it was something they should do or even should like, but just didn't.
An obligation.
Yeah. And of course, their husbands felt it the same way, which is that there's no passion, there's no energy. And
right.
And so, but a minority of the women just didn't bring any of the sexism to the theology. They saw themselves as equal to men. They saw their desires around sex, but just in their lives in general, as equal to their husbands. Like they took themselves seriously. They had a strong sense of agency. And even though the women I interviewed anyway, had actually related to the teachings in the church around, waiting until marriage and so on. They took those things seriously, but they didn't do it out of a sense of self-rejection or that sexuality is a bad thing. In fact, they saw sex as a really great thing and something they were looking forward to, but this was a way of keeping it special.
Yeah.
So it was a very different relationship to a conservative choice. So the group that did poorly saw it as more from a fear-based frame, more from a place of shame. The women who did well saw it as a positive thing and something that they actually wanted to preserve for the right context, the right relationship. And so they transitioned quite easily. So even though they had engaged their sexuality very little premaritally, it wasn't the challenging transition that it was for some of the other women.
Right. So is one of the major challenges in not just in Mormon culture, but any group that leans a little bit more conservative or abstemious, is the challenge you're like sex is sort of this forbidden taboo thing, and then all of a sudden you have free reign, and so you go from 0 to 100 pretty fast. Is that part of the challenge?
Yeah. I mean, one of the concepts I talk about a lot is sexual integration. That is our goal. And that is it, to kind of to be able to understand sexuality as part of the human experience, as actually a good part of the human experience, and learning how to relate to it in a way that accrues to our well-being. And all humans are up against those questions. How do we relate to pleasure in a way that actually enriches our lives and makes them better? Because we can, of course, relate to pleasure in a way that destroys our lives.
Yeah.
But then there's the opposite reaction, where some people are afraid of pleasure and they see it as the pathway to bad things. And so they reject all pleasure, which also interferes with our lives. And so it's, how do I integrate this? How do I relate to this in a way that's in line with my beliefs and my integrity, but creates joy and goodness in my life? And so that's the challenge. But now I already forgot your question, Taylor. Sorry.
You're good. Just is the challenge going from 0 to 100? Because like, even for myself, like, I have somehow, by the grace of the Lord, like, managed to not be sexually active later in life, later than I'd hoped. And I know that when I do get married, all of a sudden it'll be like, it's red light, green light.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is it's a bit disconcerting.
Yes.
Right? It's a lot to deal with.
It can be. So I think that when people relate to this thing, sexuality and pleasure, from a frame primarily of fear, then it makes the transition very awkward and challenging.
Right.
Because even now, though now it's legal, there's this sense that this is actually kind of forbidden or dangerous, or this could undermine me. Yeah. Undermine our marriage. And so, but the people that actually are able to integrate it, they don't see it as inherently dangerous. They see it as a powerful thing. So relating to it wisely matters. But if you relate to it wisely, it can be a very, very good thing in your life. And so they're not relating to it from a place of fear, but more desire. Yeah. What is the life I want to create? What kind of sexual relationship or marriage do I want to have? Is this choice going to facilitate that possibility or interfere with it? And it's amazing when you put something in the frame of desire, it gives a lot more possibility and agency to it. When we teach from a frame of fear, we really teach the idea that sexuality is more powerful than you are. Yeah. And if you really believe that, then it's like, okay, well, now it's technically legal, but what if this gets out of control? What if this undermines me? What if this hurts my partner? It's hard to know how to relate to this language of sexuality if you've always had a sense of fear that is infecting that understanding. Yeah. Yeah. How is sex related to self-esteem? Because it feels like they can't help but be connected. They are, I think. Right? Because when you're talking about intimacy, there's so much validation on the table. Yes. And so I feel like so many partners perhaps have struggles in their sex life because one or both partners struggle with their own self-worth and their own self-esteem. Yeah. Well, I mean, to really let someone in on who you are is a real act of courage. And it's really letting somebody know you. And having a basic sense of self-respect is really essential to daring to let someone in on who you are. So that's one piece of it. The other thing is, do I deserve pleasure? Yeah, do I deserve love? Do I deserve to be cared for and known at this level? And those are all questions that are really present when you let someone in. And if you're not sure, then you're going to be really looking to them to validate you and to make it okay. And if your partner has enough anxiety, they may not be in a position to validate your sexuality. They may have their own anxieties about it. So, I think if our sense of self is compromised or challenged or uncertain, we will do one of two things, which is either I'm not deserving of any pleasure, or I'm sort of needy around it, and I need you to make it okay, and I need, you to give me something through my sexuality that will solve a question inside of me. And neither one of those really works in a long-term relationship.
Right.
If you can hold your sense of self enough to dare to let someone in, enough to dare to let yourself experience pleasure and to be known in that way, I mean, then you can really access a kind of beauty and solace and joy in a marriage. But I think it requires believing in a God that wants us to be joyful, believing in a God that understands pleasure to be a balm in our lives. Not pleasure for its own sake or pleasure at the expense of somebody else, but a pleasure that actually expands us and grounds us.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that asking ourselves that question, do I deserve pleasure?
Yeah.
Right? Because I think a lot of us ask, like, do I deserve love? Do I deserve to be happy? But do I deserve pleasure is a really nuanced question.
Yeah. Exactly. And is it okay to enjoy my life? I mean, I had a client once who the family ethos was that to have pleasure or acknowledge pleasure was morally less. It was like, even to be proud of yourself for something was somehow like a lesser position.
Yeah.
And not surprisingly, she struggled a lot around sex and intimacy because there just was no room in the way she'd grown up, learning that you could just enjoy life, that you could take pleasure in being alive. And so much of what intimate love is taking pleasure in the other person's presence.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's what we want. We want our partner to take pleasure in being with us. That there's a little bit of a narcissism in it, like that I give you pleasure just by being here. Not that I'm serving your needs, but that
if it's reciprocated, it's not narcissism.
No, yeah, it's not a narcissism that interferes. It's like it's a positive narcissism. I don't know how to say it. Like, I turn you on. I give you pleasure by being here. That adds to our own pleasure. And it seems selfish or strange, but it's like, it's something that really, if you think about a baby, a parent that is kissing and enjoying that baby, the mother, let's say, is taking pleasure in their existence. So she's kissing and holding and she's just enjoying them because they exist.
Yeah.
And the baby, that adds to the baby's sense of self. They know that on some level the parent is in love with them. That's the lucky baby. And they don't have to do anything or prove anything. Their existence is enough to delight another soul.
Yeah.
I think we're looking for that energy in sex. That's what we want. It's what we have when we fall in love. We see like, oh, this person that attracts me and lights me up, I light them up. And that's kind of the binding energy of falling in love. And it's what we want in a marriage. It's what we want in a long-term connection, is that feeling with the other person.
Yeah. So, I was so excited to have this conversation because I feel like me and my friends are so open, and, most of my friends are married. And so we're often asking each other, like, not the gritty details, but about each other's sex lives and are they happy? Are they satisfied? What's working? And I just know so many people that are deeply unsatisfied with their sex lives. 100%. And it really makes me sad because I'm like, I don't feel like it needs to be this way, but I guess it's just such a complicated human thing that it's really hard to have a healthy, happy sexual life that is sustainable for a long period of time.
It is.
Yeah.
It takes skills. It takes development that we often don't know we lack until we're in it. And, this is really the book that I've just finished is really about, is how to utilize a marriage to grow into a person more capable of intimate love. And, when you fall in love, you just get the gift of experiencing it. And dopamine helps, and the novelty of falling in love certainly helps, but you're just in that rich, amazing experience of just feeling that another person is just glad you exist and you feel the same way about them. And that's the inspiration of the marriage. It's what makes you think we can do this. it's very important. It's an important phase. But then when you move in together and you start to work out a life together, you start realizing like they weren't designed to make me happy. They're actually seem perfectly designed to make me unhappy.
Right.
Because we're often attracted to difference. I mean,
Sure.
the erotic love or eros energy is drawn to mystery and difference. And so we often seek someone who does the world differently than we do.
Yeah.
And so when you're up against those differences, it can be really frustrating. It's like not only you're not making me happy, you're making me unhappy. And maybe I married the wrong person. And so you're now up against the not getting what you want. It's what Terry Real, the therapist, says. It's, you have the love without knowledge phase when you fall in love, but then it goes to the knowledge without love phase. And it hurts and it's disillusioning. And some people just grow into resentment and they get into sort of power struggles and they don't understand that nothing is going wrong and that these differences are an opportunity to grow into someone that can know and accept another. And that is the work of marriage. It is the task of marriage. And it's very rewarding work. I mean, I don't mean to say it like it's the work, it's so hard because but if you can understand, like, look, marriage never was supposed to be that I lock someone in who has to love me no matter how immature I am.
Yeah.
That I actually promised when I married that I was going to bring my best to this person, that I was going to love them despite challenges. And so how do I grow into someone who can really make room for a person who's quite different than me?
Yeah.
And if we cannot be resentful, but grow into someone who can know and understand another as well as be known and understood, you actually have in the marriage itself the structure of passion. You have difference, you have polarity, and if you have resentment with that, it doesn't work.
Right.
But if you can actually accept that person that's different than you, right, then you have the energy that creates passion, that creates desire, even in someone that you know very well. And human beings, I always teach, we want two things that feel like they are in contradiction. But if we grow, we find that we can have both of these things. And that is that we want to belong to another person. We want to feel accepted by them. We want to know that we're safe with them. But we also want to belong to our individuality. And we don't want to betray ourselves or not fulfill our own ambitions and desires and be true to who we are.
Yeah.
And when we're falling in love, it feels like, oh, I get to have both because they're just going to back me up no matter what.
Yeah.
When you are in that stage of disillusionment, it feels like I get one or the other. I'm either at peace with you or I'm at peace with myself, but I don't know how to have both. But as we grow, then we become more capable of actually accepting a person in all their difference and making room for them to thrive while not betraying ourselves. We learn how to creatively sort out a way to be partners, to really have a marriage while not asking the other one to be less. And that's really what is required to have long-term, passionate or intimate sex.
Okay, yeah. So when you meet with couples, would you say there's maybe 2 or 3 main reasons why their sex life is suffering? Can you see just kind of obvious patterns?
It's a good question. I have to think about that. So let me just think out loud. I mean, sometimes there is intrapersonal challenges. So that is like somebody has a lot of anxiety about sex itself. They're struggling, maybe they had some sexual trauma. Maybe they grew up learning that sex was a lesser part of being human. And so there's not conflict in the marriage per se, but they are really struggling to even make room for their sexuality.
Yeah.
And when sex is at its best, it's very soulful. You're you feel like I can be myself with you.
Yeah.
And yet, if you don't feel like it's okay for sexuality to belong to your sense of self, there's just work to do there to make peace with your embodied sexual nature.
Yeah.
To be able to forge a partnership, right? So there's that piece that's often there. And men do it as well. Even men that can be compulsive or, they're looking at porn a lot or whatever. It looks like they're more comfortable with sex than maybe their more repressed partner.
Yeah.
But that's also a lack of sexual integration. That's also, they're not actually at peace in their sexuality. They're vacillating between some obsessiveness and some repression.
Mm-hmm.
And so they also aren't integrated.
Yeah.
So there's that category. And then I would say there's the category of just the struggle in the question of how do I belong to me and you?
Mm.
And the resentment that can come in that struggle, or like sometimes people suppress themselves. Men have a way of doing this. Women have a way of doing it, which is suppressing themselves in order to keep the peace.
Yeah.
But their resentment follows right behind.
Right.
And
it's not real peace.
It's not real peace. And
Yeah.
if you can't be yourself in the marriage, how are you going to be yourself in sex?
Right.
And for sex to be good, you have to feel like you can be yourself. You have to feel like I can be with you. I can show you who I am. And there's a real peace here.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of the couples I work with, I mean, they're lying next to somebody at night that they feel a lot of turmoil with. And even if they have sex, twice a week, it's not necessarily the kind of sex that's really, bonding them.
Yeah, it's not really soulful.
It's not
like
soulful. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, wow. So I feel like obviously I'm a man, so I tend to hear the side of the men,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But I feel like so often I hear the big problem being, and obviously this is a really reductive take, but that men want it 5, 6,
Sure.
7 times a week,
Sure.
and the wife wants it once or twice.
Yeah.
And so there's immediate disconnect.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the problem with men and women getting married.
Right.
And it's kind of, it's true. I mean, I would say because of testosterone,
Mm-hmm.
Men feel desire much more spontaneously. It's just there's less on the line, biologically speaking, for men to be sexual.
Right.
And so I think men are wired up more to just desire, to notice a woman, to want to be sexual, to notice their wife's beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why wouldn't I want to do that with you,
Right.
right? You're so attractive and so on.
And I might be wrong, but I feel like we tend to be less critical about our own bodies.
Yes, absolutely. I think men are more comfortable in the language of the body,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have that self-reflexive perfectionism that I think women often have.
Mm-hmm.
And women have it because of the culture, but women have it in part too because really good sex is feminine centric. It's about the beauty of the female.
Yeah.
It's the woman's pleasure that's often the focus of really good sex.
Mm-hmm.
And so first of all, if women don't think they're supposed to have pleasure, it certainly challenges this dynamic. If women don't feel that they're beautiful, and when we have a really narrow view, that can really interfere. But if women can't sort of accept their worthiness and accept their inherent beauty, it can interfere. But women also care a lot about the quality of sex. So if I were to say, just sort of in gross terms, men are fixated on quantity and women on quality.
Right.
Both matter.
Mm-hmm.
They do. And men have a gift of testosterone
Sure.
and pursuit, honestly. They really do.
Yeah.
But women are also often care about, like, do you love me? Do you choose me? Is it about me or is it about sex? Right. So all the films that are romantic films for women are very focused on the narrative of the man who sees her and values her as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, he also is drawn to her beauty. That's a part of his desire for her, but it's more than that. It's not just about how it serves his needs.
Right.
It's that he's actually invested in her. And this is a big question that women just naturally carry biologically.
Mm-hmm.
Is this about sex with me or just having sex?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Something I've struggled with is I feel like so many women, because for a long time, or a large period of their life, it's been about their beauty, about how they look, about their sexuality.
Yeah.
And because of that, they almost rebuff a compliment about their appearance.
Yeah.
Right. And so it puts the male in an awkward position where I want to compliment you on your beauty and whatever.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's taken as, oh, you just like me because I'm hot. Or you just like me for my body. And it's like, okay, how much do I compliment? How much do I mention?
Mention it a lot.
Yeah.
It's all fake when it's like men are pigs. What did he say exactly?
Well, and obviously this is this is more in courtship.
Yeah.
right? So it's different when you're living together and you're married.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm kind of teasing a little bit. So I think in some ways women are, when I say men are pigs, it's like there was a funny sitcom that was playing off that idea, which is like men are pigs. But what was he saying about me exactly? That is, we like to feel attractive. It's part of most women. The turn on is to be the turn on.
Mm-hmm.
And to feel like I'm compelling for him.
Yeah.
Now, not if it's only about the physicality.
Right.
Women want to know that it's more than that, but they certainly want their beauty to be acknowledged. Yeah. Most women. Okay.
You know what I do? My approach in courtship.
Yeah.
I don't bring up their beauty at all until it's established that we kind of like each other.
Yeah.
And we're hanging out and stuff.
I think that's smart.
And then I pour it on.
Yeah, that's smart. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, exactly. And that I really am into you, and they can feel that you're into them. Mm-hmm. And then their beauty is actually an expression of not just their physical beauty, but liking them and knowing them and being drawn to them. And I think in some ways, if men know that they are invested in the woman, there's no need to apologize for finding her beautiful. It's men's gift in a way is to be drawn to and to recognize feminine beauty.
We got good eyes.
Yeah, you guys do. And like when I ask men, like men see their wives often, the men I work with much kinder assessment than women sometimes do for themselves. Now, this is because certainly we have a beauty industry that exploits that anxiety, but the self-reflexive part, it's very easy to, to be hypercritical, to doubt your beauty and to not actually see yourself properly. It's it's an easy thing to do. And, but if you have a male witness who's speaking honestly to you, that's very helpful. It's like, well, I'm not going to lie to you. You are beautiful. Like I see you that way. Yeah. And to see the soul beauty of the other person. So I think if you recognize and value the whole person, there's nothing to apologize for in recognizing their beauty and especially when it's about who they are as much as how they look.
Yeah. Okay. This is a really hard question. Luckily, I don't have like a wife at home that will be listening to this. But what do you do? What do you tell couples that are struggling with feeling like their attraction for the other is waning a little bit?
Yeah.
Because A, that's an almost impossible thing to bring up to your spouse.
Yeah.
And B, it's almost like, is that even an appropriate emotion?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great.
I mean, I think it is. Yeah. I think that
to me, it's just like whether it's deeply hurtful or not, it's what I feel.
Yeah.
Or what somebody feels.
I think it's important. And one of the goals of the book that I wrote is just helping us actually appreciate the value of erotic love. Mm-hmm. We tend to be like, well, it needs to be agape, like it's this kind of love that has no conditions. And I think any good marriage has that quality that I'm really here for you. I'm really your friend. But it understands eros as equal in importance in a marriage, because it's a relationship based on desire and choice. That's how it starts. And so it's that foundational meaning of I desire you and you desire me. And that we're choosing to bring our sexuality no other place but to each other. And so to hold that as important. And it's not just, to manage my husband's needs. It's more that it's good for us. It's good for the soul of the marriage. It's the sacrament of the marriage, the sexual relationship. And so honoring it is important. But I think when people lose attraction, if it's about just really superficial things, you can't tolerate that your wife is going to age because she's a human being. Okay, well, then you've got some issues.
Sure.
If you can't just accept her as a whole real person, then you've got something going on that your challenge with attraction is more about your narrowness and your limitation. Okay. But if your challenge with attraction is because your spouse, and this could go both directions, isn't really living, they're more in retrenchment. They're more like phoning it in life. They're not treating their body well. Yeah. They're not living and doing things in the world. Then attractiveness is going to be low because they're not actually at peace in themselves.
They're not as vibrant.
Yeah. They're not actually engaged in living well. My mom, after my dad passed away, she was 88 or 89. she had always wanted to dance. She'd grown up on a farm in Idaho. It had always been something she wanted to do, but never had done. She got married early, well, not that early, but for an LDS person, it was later, but she was still had 8 children. And so when my dad passed away, she just walked into a dance studio and signed up for 2 dance lessons. She was 89. Okay.
I love that.
Okay. Well, she loved it. And my mom, pictures of her at 90 and 91, she was radiating life. I mean, she just was, because she was living.
Right.
And so here she was 90 and yet truly beautiful, because she was leaning into life.
Yeah.
And she was not, just waiting for it to end. And so that's attractive.
Right.
My husband was saying to me once when we first got married, because I was worrying about, was I going to put on weight because I wasn't running any longer, something I had been doing when I was single. And he's like, Jennifer, you can put on a lot of weight and I will still be attracted to you. But what would be unattractive is if you hated yourself.
Right.
If you aren't thriving, if you aren't radiating, because I think the masculine is drawn to that life energy of the feminine, and the feminine is a life energy. And so that's really what it's about often. Some men don't know how to love a whole person. Okay. Right. And that's one thing. Right. But if you're not really living your life well, then that's hard to be drawn to.
Yeah. So how do you have that conversation with a spouse?
Well, I think like
hey, you're not alive right now.
Yeah, it's not good for the husband in that situation. It's not good for the wife either. If somebody is just moved into a place of kind of giving up and depression, and to say like, I miss the thriving you.
Yeah.
I don't feel it, and it's hard, and I'm sure it's hard on you too. And I long for that part of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so it's not saying like, I wish you were someone else. It's like, I wish you were more you.
Right. Yeah, that's a really beautiful way of putting it. There's a song lyric from do you know who John Bellion is?
I don't know.
Well, you should.
Oh yeah.
But he has this lyric where he says in the chorus, he says, "What happened to your light?"
Exactly.
And it's such an interesting.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
We're drawn to the light in the other person. I mean, that's the soul beauty.
Yeah.
And to commune with that light is what sustains our souls. And that's what erotic love is we're leaning into, like eros love is the desire to commune.
Yeah.
And it's to commune with divinity. It's to commune with another soul. It's to commune with the world. And that's what lights us up. It's what it expands our souls. And so that's the antidepressant of life.
Right.
And yet life is hard, and there's loss, and there's fear, and there's uncertainty. And so while we have this eros draw, we also have the thanatos pull into safety and predictability and wanting the world to yield to us more than to yield to the world. And so understandably, we can do these things where we pull into fear, we pull into, not wanting the marriage to grow or change, but we pay a big price when we won't grow.
Yeah.
I can never say this theologian's name, but anyway, he said something like, sin is the refusal to grow.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we think of sin as making mistakes. I think sin is not learning from mistakes, not being willing to grow from them.
Right. Because we all make mistakes nonstop. Of course.
How else is there? I mean, right. No, it's a fantasy that we don't.
How do you bridge the gap between, I feel like Christians, conservative people can often really struggle with eroticism versus spirituality,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And saying, I want to be a really spiritual person. I want to be really connected with God. And eroticism feels sinful. It feels taboo. It feels wild, whatever.
Yeah.
But within the confines of a marriage and a loving partnership, that should exist, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I think one of the things that we get right in conservative faith is that we want to be careful with our sexuality, right? So it's okay to have expectations and structure and learning how to have breaks around pleasure, right?
Yeah.
You think about a child, they get their hand down their pants and they're, running around naked, and that's all great when they're 2, but at a certain point it's time to cover up, and it's time to learn how to be in polite society and learning how to inhibit.
Yeah,
and
when you're 10, it's not cute anymore.
Exactly. It's no longer cute. Right. And so that is an important process. Now, if we shame a lot to inhibit, then it interferes with the larger goal of integration, right? But if you can just teach to basically inhibit and manage, then you actually can, to create what you want, you need to have breaks.
Yeah.
And so if you can learn to self-regulate around pleasure, then you can go and forge something beautiful. So if we can use the limits to forge capacity, marriage is even a way of choosing a limit that forges soul capacity.
Yeah.
If we relate to limits like prison or shame, okay, then it interferes with that larger goal. And so yes, there is something, indulgence is antithetical to spirituality.
Right.
Because if you indulge your way through life, you're going to be in a psychological hell soon enough.
Yeah. It's just gluttony.
It's gluttony.
Yeah.
And it divides you from yourself. It divides you from others. And so there is no peace. And so there's something there when people are saying it feels like two different worlds. But if I can learn to accept myself as a sexual being, if I can learn to accept myself and make choices that accrue to my well-being, that make me more capable of loving with sexuality, and to be able to create that with another person, to create a real relationship, imperfect, flawed, sometimes frustrating, but real, right? Then we actually start to feel the spirituality of sex. And not that we're having deep spiritual experiences necessarily, but even just these moments of honest communion, of honest peace, of honest connection that are very powerful and sustaining for us. And, Dr. Stephen Schneider, he says this is the sanctification of the ordinary in sex. These moments of meeting, of when the world time sort of stops, stands still, and you have each other. And it's a way that the soul can kind of be nourished through these moments of connection that we need, that sustain us in the day-to-day of life.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you wish, you've been married, how long have you been married now?
Oh gosh, 27 years, okay. 28 years.
What do you know now that you wish, like, those first couple of years you would have kind of understood better about sex?
Well, I had a big advantage on that. So in the sense that I had been studying it already before I got married.
Okay, yeah.
My husband, I was almost 30. So I don't know why, but I, as a younger person, and that's how I'm doing the work that I'm doing, I would go to the lessons at church that were kind of shaming and fear-driven around sex. And I would be like, wow, that person's got issues with sex. Like,
right.
Like, I mean, I'm not saying that those lessons didn't affect me at all. I think they did. I think I had some real anxiety about it. But I also had another voice that was kind of saying, this can be a good thing in life. My husband and I did wait until we were married, but we did it also from that kind of conscious, chosen way, not out of shame or that there was something wrong about the desire that we had for each other.
You just wanted it to be special.
Yeah, we really did. We valued that idea very much. And so it made the transition pretty easy, actually. And so I'm grateful for that. I think if just in the concrete terms, I think I would have just told myself, don't expect anything phenomenal on the wedding night.
Sure.
I mean, like, it might be a little bit of a process figuring this out, and that's okay. And just enjoy figuring it out. And it's, that would have helped. I think what would have helped in the kind of larger picture is to not see conflict and struggle in the beginning as anything going wrong.
Right.
Is that you're actually trying to forge how to live together, how to create a marriage out of these differences. And the idea that there's some people there that are just doing it without any challenges is mostly fantasy. It's just not real. And so embrace the process for what it is. And I mean, maybe just hold on to what you actually desire. Why are you doing it in the first place? It's because I want to love this person. I want to be with this person. I want to work out a life with him. Because I think some of my perfectionism would kick in, like, we're not doing it the right way, or there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been helpful to know that. But I was almost 30 and he's older than I am. So we just had a little more maturity. That helped a lot.
Yeah. Do you feel like in those early stages when a couple is new to it together, do you think it's helpful to almost have these, like, postcoidal meetings, like where you're kind of saying like, what was good? What was bad? How could we improve? What did you like?
Yeah.
What did I like?
I mean, certainly if you're not able to talk, if you feel afraid of talking about it, what I would say, it's not so much that people must communicate about it. The problem is if they don't, they won't communicate.
Right.
If there's things to be said and they won't say them, or they're afraid if they say them, it will make their spouse feel like they've failed.
Right.
The thing that's so hard about sex is that it's so close to our souls.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really afraid, how to say it? It really punctures us if our spouse isn't happy with exactly what we're doing. And so it takes some temerity and some, just the willingness to hear and understand the other and know what their experience is and just to keep at it,
Yeah.
Keep coming back to it over and over.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like there's a certain average age where couples, whatever amount of sex they're having, it just starts to decline significantly?
That's conventional thinking, certainly that it is. I mean,
I just mean in average.
Yes and no. So I would say, I mean, it depends on the couple.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, it's like when they first get married, it's like every day because they're both way into it and they both really like it. And then, the next year it drops a little and then the next year it drops a little more.
Yeah.
But I do think in a marriage that's sort of alive and there's an enjoyable sexual relationship, it's just a regular part of the marriage. It's just a part of the sustaining quality, and that they miss each other if they don't have that connection. And so I think there was some research that showed that people that were having sex, 5+ times a week were not as happy as people having it, 2 to 3 times a week. So that is that. Or it might have even been like 1 to 2 times a week is what it was. And it might be because the people having it 5 times a week, it's under duress. Like one person is trying to produce something for a more demanding partner.
Yeah.
If both people are like wanting that, that's only going to be good for the marriage, right? But I think that it's more the quality of what's happening and if it feels honest and real. I mean, I remember hearing an older woman say this, and I can't remember who it was, actually, but she said something like, my husband and I made love every night of our marriage. Sometimes we had sex. Okay. And what she's talking about, and to me, I was like, yes, I know what she's talking about. It's this kind of coming together, feeling sexual energy with one another, feeling that sort of delight in each other. Not cuddling. I mean like energy.
Yeah.
You're like pushing up against each other. You like each other. Sometimes that leads to sex. Sometimes that leads to drifting off to sleep. And that energy is just a part of the marriage. It's part of the relationship.
Yeah.
And that's when that's lacking. That's when people are really unhappy in marriage. And it has more to do with that energy than quantity per se.
Right. Okay. So, and maybe this is so personal and case by case, but let's say as a woman, your desire to be intimate with your husband on a particular night is pretty low. Okay. But he is really pursuing it and you're kind of like, I could do it. It's not that big of a deal. It'll make him happy, whatever. Should you go through with it?
I would encourage someone to not do it in that way.
Yeah.
Either choose it or don't choose it.
Right.
But not in the, it'll make him happy. I'll suffer through.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that cultivates resentment because he feels it.
Yeah.
Unless he's totally checked out.
Right.
He feels that she's not excited and so he's just accommodating me. And then he can feel resentment too, right? So I think that it often creates the wrong meaning rather than I have a choice to make. Either I'm like really here for it and I'm going to like, okay, like, and I don't mean to say that you can't say like, I feel really tired, but let's see if I can get in the mood. Like I'll try. Like, but you're in it, you're trying, you want to get there. Or to say, I really can't tonight, but let's try, tomorrow or whatever. Instead of the resentful accommodation, I think that's more dangerous.
It might be kind of like if your partner wants to go to the ballet and you're like, I do not want to go, but I'll go if it makes you happy, and I'll have a good attitude, and I'll put on a good face.
I think it's fine I wouldn't even say I'll put on a good face. I would say, no, you either say, okay, I'm really going to go because I choose this person.
Yeah.
It's not that I love ballet or that I want to go to the ballet tonight, but I'm either really going to go.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to go.
Right.
And what I mean by be careful of good face and is it sometimes
I'm going to be present and
yes,
I'm going to be like...
I'm just kind of particular about language because it really does have impact.
Oh,
so sometimes
sure.
if we're like, I want my spouse to feel loved, therefore I'm going to go suffer through the ballet. I still think that's not quite it.
Yeah.
It's like either really do it because you love them and you choose it and you're there for it, or you don't.
Yeah.
But not like I need to do it. Yeah. And then she better give me sex after the ballet.
Right. Well, one of my best friends from high school, we've been friends forever. He was engaged to this girl, and he comes home one day and I was like, dude, what were you doing all day? And he's like, oh, dude, we went horseback riding. She loves horses. And he's like, so I guess I do too now. Yeah. And he was like, so earnestly like, I like horses now.
Yeah.
Because he just loved her so much. He's like, this is important to her.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do it otherwise.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that.
Well, the people that are the happiest in marriage, the research suggests, is people that feel like by being married, they grew into someone they like even more. So that is, it wasn't just that they like their spouse, that they like themselves more through who they became in the marriage, that they experienced more, that their sense of self broadened. Mm-hmm. And so you can really experience the world more through the other person, through that difference.
Yeah.
If you just resent it and you're like, just be like me so we can be happy, you're going to struggle a lot more than, I love this person and learning about them and sharing things with them expands me too.
Yeah. No one really wants to be married to themselves.
No.
Yeah.
Be the worst. I feel sorry for my husband.
Yeah. I'm currently married to myself. It's not great. I want to touch on this. I read the introduction to your book that's coming out, and I love this phrase here. So it says, the gift of human intimacy deepens not only our connection to a spouse and divinity, it expands our capacity for joy. And I've always talked about with friends and people I care about that I feel like I have a large capacity for joy. And I feel like it almost makes it harder to find a partner because I'm not okay with small amounts of joy. I want something rich and vibrant and big and but talk to me about how having a good deep connection with your intimacy and with divinity can expand your joy.
Well, so let me speak to just that first piece, which is I think in some ways the chances of you having a really good partnership are often connected, perhaps paradoxically, to your willingness to not have one. That is to say, if you can understand that your life could be rich and meaningful even without one, it means your ability to choose has actually gone up because you really can envision an alternative. Yeah. Those of us that feel like, oh, I have to get married or else I won't be a legitimate person or I won't be able to know happiness. I'm not dissing marriage by any stretch, but
it's born out of desperation.
If it's out of anxiety and desperation, it's less about a choice and really choosing another soul. And so, so being able to really choose your partner, I think really adds to the foundation of a marriage that can be joyful. But I think that there's nothing more beautiful and remarkable than feeling like there's somebody who fully knows you, that you can be your whole self with, and that they like you, that they like being there with you, that they can know you in every way, and that you're really forging a home. It's interesting, like psychologically, it feels like a home. Yeah. I remember once being in church and the person teaching the lesson said, think of a sacred space. And what came into my head right away was my bed. Because it feels so like that. It's just a place of deep peace, connection, friendship, the one place where I can be fully myself. And I just think that's joyful. It's like, it's even, a lot of people I work with will even have moments of it moving them to tears to feel that received. Yeah. That loved to feel that they can experience joy with another beloved partner.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, in the relationships I've had that have moved me the most, it's when you start to feel like I didn't know this level of joy existed. Right.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's even like without any sexual intimacy,
Yeah.
but it's just finding that deep connection
Yeah,
and
exactly.
emotional intimacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'd love to hear a little bit about your husband and how you guys met and how you guys fell in love and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So, John, I met him when I first moved to Boston. He
Mhm.
was actually the first man I met there, and he showed up on the porch. I was
Was he
painting.
delivering a package?
No, he wasn't. Yeah, he was coming to see my roommate, who
Oh,
he was dating.
classic. Okay.
But I was like covered in paint because I was painting my room. I had just moved in, and the doorbell rang, so I opened the door, and he was coming to watch the U.S. Open, and he didn't have cable TV, and so he just gotten there ahead of his girlfriend,
Mhm.
and so I ended up talking to him for about 10 minutes, and I was just absolutely drawn to him.
Yeah,
I was. It was kind of, I just saw him as this kind, smart person. He just seemed smart and kind and handsome.
Mhm.
But it was just, there was something about him that was
Yeah.
just really both familiar and mysterious at the same time.
Mhm.
I kept that to myself because
Sure.
he was dating my
Yeah, yeah.
roommate, but I was kind of tracking that a little bit. And
Oh, I've done some tracking.
yeah. And then, I think maybe 9 or 10 months later, they ended the relationship, and she moved out of the country. And
And you started going like this.
yeah, exactly. How do I make it clear?
Yeah.
And he was sailed a lot at the time. He had a couple of catamarans, and anyway, the short of it is, I knew he wanted to sail on Lake Champlain, and so I invited him to come up and sail on Lake Champlain, and
Mhm.
so I actually asked him out the
Oh,
first time.
awesome. I love it. Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, great! Who else is going to be there?" And I'm like, "Well, my mom and sister." I was so
Yeah.
embarrassed, but he was good about it. So our first date was going up to Vermont, where my family was,
Mhm.
and sailing on Lake Champlain. But our first conversation was just very powerful for me. It was like a 3-hour drive, and I just felt like I could be myself already. Like, I felt like I could talk to him about some of my questions and challenges around church
Mhm.
and women's role in the church. And I'd had so many men that were calling me to repentance when I questioned things within our faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just was so over that. I
Yeah.
just needed to be with somebody that didn't want me to be different,
Right.
and
You didn't
could
like being
accept.
chastised?
No,
That's crazy.
exactly.
Yeah.
Here they'd bring me a list of scriptures to read, and I was like, oh. So, and I just felt like not only did he understand it and wasn't threatened by it, that he had thought about it a lot himself. And so there was a resonance there for me right away. At the same time, I was actually afraid of feeling that resonance. Like, I have to say, like, I was afraid of marriage. I was
Mhm.
afraid of losing myself in marriage. I
Yeah.
had really grown up learning. I'd seen my mom in some ways defer so much to my dad. I'd also grown up learning that good women do that they take their husband's name, they kind of fall into that they're his support staff.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be married, but I didn't want to lose my life and lose my identity. And so I was just afraid of that possibility. Thankfully, John grew up in a family where his parents had both a very good marriage, and his mom was very much a force. She just had she was her own life force,
Yeah.
and John's dad loved and valued everything about her. And so we had a good role model and all of that. It just took me a while to work out my anxiety and really step in with both feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it took me like 2.5 years before I was
Mm.
like, okay, I'm really here for it. But, as much as people around me were distressed by how long it was taking me, I'm really grateful I did that for me.
Yeah.
Because it was, by the time we were really getting married, we both were
Just so
truly
solid.
choosing and knew
Yeah.
what we were choosing. And we're really happy about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of distressed people out there for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, what's the matter with you? When are you going to get your?
Yeah, there's plenty the matter with me. What over the years, what has been something that has really helped your guys' love evolve from that initial stage where it's almost obsession. You're just so excited and the feelings are so new. But then, you get a house together and you grow and you start to have children. What has maybe been a catalyst for that growth for you guys?
I would say the tolerance of honest conversations and even of conflict.
Yeah.
And one thing about my husband is he doesn't like conflict, that's for sure. But we can stay pretty honest with each other. And I feel like the thing I was going to say is the thing about John is that he never goes to hostility.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something I deeply appreciate, that even if we are distressed or upset, it doesn't turn to, what's the word? Like hatred or like meanness towards the other person.
Yeah.
So we've been plenty mad at each other, about things, but the basic desire to be at peace with each other, to find our way to an honest peace, has really been there. And I'm really grateful for John's contribution to that, because I think he had stronger intuition around that than I did even. And I think that it just felt real. I mean, so even if we were unhappy with each other, it wasn't like, either one of us was like creating deeper and deeper resentment or isolation or pulling away. So we just would kind of stay in it until we could find something that we were both at peace enough with.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like so many of us, it's our natural default setting to just be like, when there's discord, to be like, well, I'm right though. And you're wrong. So can you get on my side? Like, how do you help people have a more open mindset in, when you're arguing and when you're fighting, to approach it with the mindset that, well, I actually might be wrong too, or I might be at fault too.
Well, I think part of it is just understanding what the goal is. I mean, the goal isn't about who's going to prevail. It's like you're trying to forge a life with this person, and they're not just going to disappear. I mean, they care about something. And so if you love them, the uncomfortable work is sorting out who they are, how they experience you, why they're not okay with the thing that you're so okay with, and trying to increase the IQ of the conversation. Like, what are we actually trying to build a bridge across? And this comes up in parenting, like, why do you see it this way? And the thing is, they're not crazy. They see something.
Yeah.
And oftentimes what happens in marriage is people tend to polarize, like they get really fixated on one side of the argument and the other one on the other. They're both right. And the only way you're going to solve it is if you can come to like understand how you're both right. I mean, so then what do you do with that? How do you make something work given that both of these pieces are true and in fact matter? But it's that process that allows your creativity to emerge, allows you to actually forge something that's really about who the two of you are.
Yeah.
What our lesser selves want to do is just duke it out in the kind of who's going to win.
Yeah.
So it's not that you're wrong when you feel that you're right. It's that if I'm going to build a marriage with this person, I need to understand how they are right.
Yeah. And not be competitive with them.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so much what we want to do in marriage, and, we just want to win.
Yeah.
But then you have two losers.
Right. Gosh. Yeah. You guys have kids?
Yeah.
How many kids? 3 kids?
Yeah.
How have you talked to your kids about sex? What's a good approach with that?
Yeah, well, just have sex books all over the place, and then they're
right.
Well,
just let them into your office.
Yeah, what I mean is, like, in some ways, it wasn't in the forbidden range, and so it was pretty normal, and so it was a pretty normal part of the interactions and the conversations. But also they were well aware that people have challenges around it too. So it wasn't quite so much fascination. I think maybe it was a little bit like understanding that relationships can be hard too for people. But, I think we just made it a normal part of life. We talked about it being a normal and a good part of life. We talked about the importance of making careful decisions because it is a powerful way of being in connection with another person.
Mm-hmm.
And that there wasn't, I think because there wasn't shame and anxiety, none of my kids were sort of compulsive or reckless about it. That just hasn't been their challenge. So they've had other challenges, but it hasn't been in that domain. So, but I think I lost the question, but you were just saying, I think they understand it as a normal and a good part of life. And they've actually been pretty conservative in their choices, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. They obviously have access to your office and your office hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Another quote I wanted to bring up. I heard you mention in this little mini documentary I was watching where you took all these couples on kind of a retreat.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. But you said, everyone always says the truth sets you free, but you said the truth makes you suffer and then it sets you free. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, just what I think development is the shattering of the world as we know it to be able to accommodate a truer map of reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that shattering hurts.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. But the more that we can accommodate what is true, the wiser we can be, the deeper our agency is, the more we can actually choose well. And the more we have a proper roadmap for what we're trying to navigate. And I think that marriage, I used to think I was a nicer person before I got married. And then when I got married, I realized I could be competitive or could be withholding or could be self-serving. And it was nothing like a marriage to kind of reveal your challenge in loving another person or really knowing another person or making room for them. And so intimate connection reveals you to yourself.
Yeah.
And gives you the opportunity to learn to love if you will allow that self-awareness to, cultivate that desire in you. And so, but that process hurts. I think, again, we like our ideas. We prefer the world yields to us. We prefer a spouse yields to us.
Mm-hmm.
But what love asks of us is that we grow into somebody that can truly value another person and value how they are in the world and facilitate the thriving of others, not just ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it's a process, but if we understand the value of that process, right, then we can say, hey, it's just pain.
Yeah.
It's just disillusionment. And I know I'm saying that a little bit flippantly, but you can better understand what you're doing. It's like going to the gym. You're like, yes, it's uncomfortable, but I know what the larger goal is. And so that's why I'm here for it.
Right. And you said it can be like a shattering experience, but if you're sort of consistently seeking truth, it becomes kind of muscle memory.
It does.
It's not so shattering.
100%.
Yeah. It's like, if you just go to the gym and you're like, I'm going to absolutely destroy every muscle group I have.
Right.
It is going to be shattering.
It's going to be horrible.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But at some point you're just like, well, this is still a little arduous,
yeah.
but it's not so bad.
Exactly. And I think it's very true. The more you get used to the process of, if you're in a conversation with your spouse and okay, it's just the process. This is how it's been before. It's just so much easier, even though, it's never fun to hear the invalidating idea from your spouse. It's never fun to hear what they have to say if it's not a positive picture. But if you understand this is just how you create, this is how it goes. I always get on the other side of it. Life's always a little better after I do. You can just accept it better.
Yeah. What do you feel like are some, maybe not misnomers, but some things that men should know about women that they tend to not, and vice versa?
Well, first of all, I think women have more sexual capacity than men do, but women are just pickier about allowing it to show up.
Right.
First of all, often women are afraid to know this capacity in themselves. And so they may be slow to forge a relationship to their eroticism. They're also very attuned to the question of, does this person love me and want me to thrive? Can I respect myself to let another person know who I am? And is he here for it? Because I think masculine energy, strong masculine facilitates the thriving of the feminine. Like, yang or masculine is the frame. The art is yin or feminine, right? Or it's like in good sex, the man is the rhythm section and the woman is the radiating energy, right? She's the pleasure. And I think that it takes strong men to really want their wives to even surpass them sexually.
Right.
And so a lot of men want more the woman that slides underneath them and kind of makes them feel big.
Yeah.
That will kill her sexual energy. And it's, I just know men that would rather critique their women's low desire and even do things that facilitate her low desire unwittingly, because then they can feel superior to her and they don't realize that they're actually afraid of her thriving. They're afraid if she's thriving, maybe she wouldn't want me, wouldn't choose me. And so
it just comes from deep insecurity.
Deep insecurity, and men are often unwittingly co-creating a low desire wife. Now, it's a co-creation. I don't mean that men are just doing it to women. Women are also making decisions about how much they're going to show up and how much risk they'll take and how much they're going to value themselves and their own feminine capacity and brilliance, right? But yeah, so women have a lot of sexual capacity and a high capacity for pleasure. So that's important.
I mean, it's obvious just in the fact that they can have multiple orgasms.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we sure can.
Multiple orgasms, full body orgasms.
Yeah.
I mean, and so.
Yeah, they were made for this.
Yeah, exactly. and there's some Greek mythology around this where Tiresias was cursed, quote unquote, to be a woman and for a period of time. And then he was made a man again. And so then Zeus and Hera asked him, basically who has more sexual capacity, man or woman? And he said, if love's pleasure adds up to 10, 9 parts go to women and 1 part goes to men. And so women they can have really deep, full body, soulful, multiple orgasms.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, most people are probably like, I'd like to have one, please. And so I don't mean to say like, but women have high sexual capacity, but they're very careful about where that shows up because it's vulnerable to be sexual.
Right. And it's very connected to emotional stuff
Yes,
where men
it is.
can compartmentalize better.
That's right. I think that's right.
Yeah. What was I going to say? And then, what should women know about men?
Well, that they're not women.
Yeah.
That I think sometimes women want the masculinity and the strength and the stoicism of that men often have, while having the kind of emotional presence that a girlfriend has, and I think it's like not really fair to want that. I just don't think it's really who you married.
Yeah,
and so. My marriage got a lot better when I stopped wishing John was kind of the validating female energy in my life, because that's just not who I married. And I even dated guys that were more like that, and I wasn't attracted to them. Right. And just knowing, like, is he invested in me or not? Does he know does he know me? I think that's an important question. Yeah. Does he understand me? That's important, which is very different than you're going to be present in a way a girlfriend might be present. Right. I think that's a different idea.
Have you asked him to be more validating?
Oh, I certainly tried in the beginning. Yes. Yeah. I was more along the lines of like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you tell me these? Why don't you say these things to me more? It was more kind of negative and challenging. So I certainly did do that in the beginning. And then I think after a few years, I just realized like, he really does know me. And he really does love me, and stop trying to get him to be someone he's not. Like, just accept that everything he does is evidence that he's invested in me.
Right.
He really is. And so it's okay that he doesn't go around validating me. And I just want to be somebody that's strong enough to see him properly and not need so much reassurance. And what's kind of interesting, though, is like just not being so needy that way. I actually feel like he's much more verbally validating than he used to be, maybe just because it's freer to do it, because it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's pressured.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How dangerous is it? I feel like women usually are the culprits here, but how dangerous is it for a woman to sort of, have sex be like, okay, when you're good,
Yeah, no, that's
we can have sex. If you behave tonight,
yeah,
if you're nice to me, like all these things that kind of dangle it as a reward. How dangerous is that?
very. I just don't think that's the right way to think about it. Certainly not as a reward.
Yeah.
And I don't think that a man should think about it that way either. I mean, I don't think he should accept that idea. I mean, the way I think about it is that the emotional and sexual intimacy of a marriage matters, and both shape and affect each other. It's not like the sex is the frosting and and the emotional part is the real marriage. I mean, they're all a part of the marriage. And so, I mean, when a marriage is really good, it's a reward for both people.
Right.
It's not like his reward, because it just means that there's something then in the sexual relationship that's not about the two of you really enjoying each other and coming together. And so probably if sex is really good for both, it might mean she's rallying more than she would. Women are a little bit like, men are like, squirrel. Men are often noticing their wives and feel spontaneous desire a lot more. Women are more like, like the computer just goes into sleep mode, and women often just kind of go into sleep mode, and it doesn't mean that they're not sexual, but they need the mouse to be knocked around a little bit.
Right. Yeah. A woman can walk in the right pair of pants, and the guy's like,
right. Like, why wouldn't I want? Yeah. You're like, everything in you is making me want this. And she's like, what is the matter with you?
Yeah. There's no pant a man can wear.
No, because it's exactly. It's unfortunate for the men, but that is hard for men. They are the ones that are more in pursuit and kind of going out in the invitation. And I would say women have, to love a man is to recognize that's where he's operating from. Right. And not because he has needs. I wouldn't put it that way, but that's the gift and what he's bringing to the marriage. And it doesn't mean that you can't say no by any stretch, but like, you married a man. And so like, don't treat it like it's a lesser part of the marriage or of him.
Don't be upset when he's a man.
Yeah. And you don't want him to not desire you, do you? Yeah. Like, it's like women do want to feel desired. They just don't want to feel obligated. Right. And they don't want to feel pressured, and they don't want to feel that there's something wrong with them just because they don't operate like their husband does. Yeah. Men shouldn't pathologize women's lower desire. I mean, because they're operating in a different biology. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have a pretty matched marriage. Yeah. Because when sex becomes desirable, I mean, I seldom feel spontaneous desire, especially being postmenopausal and all that. Like, it's not like it's very seldom do I just feel it in my body first. Right. But I value that experience very much. Like, it's a meaningful part of my life. So I like my husband's invitations because it's like it's an opportunity to move in that direction and towards something that's great for me and it's great for us. So, when it's something that you both really like, well, then those biological differences aren't as big a deal. Yeah.
Is that one of your goals as a counselor, is to get couples to be closer to the same level of desire, or not?
I might say it a little differently. I think the goal is for there to be more erotic energy in the marriage, more life energy, more of a sense of enjoyment of each other, and having that be a more regular part of the connection. Yeah. That it's not so intercourse centric, and it's much more about a kind of energy that they feel together
that can facilitate that energy.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. It's very important for that to be kind of happening throughout, so that you are, when you climb in bed at night, it's already kind of there.
Right.
And it's it's often the man bringing that energy to her. It's how he looks at her. It's that he's like, I see you, I notice you, I find you attractive, and without any expectations. Right. The reason why a lot of women don't like that, if their husbands are like touching them, is they feel like it's linked to obligation. That if they're turning him on, they have to manage that need. Yeah. And so then they're like, I'm trying to do dinner. Will you leave me alone? It's all seen as pressure, as opposed to,
well, we can have a late dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the problem?
Exactly. But how to say it, we want to be free around our sexuality. And if it gets linked to obligation, then Eros dies.
It's not a sexy feeling.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And if it's if it's linked to measurement and self-judgment, eros dies.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to feel more freedom with each other and more freedom to enjoy each other, because that's the sustaining energy. And when that shows up in sex, it's really good sex.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What's a really nice definition of eros?
Oh, good. Let me see how I can say it succinctly. It's the desire for communion.
Mm-hmm.
It's the desire for honest connection with another, with something outside of ourselves that fills us with life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that part of us that wants to expand. And so it makes us feel alive. In Greek mythology, it's the life force.
Yeah, I like that. Have you ever read The Four Loves?
Yes.
By C.S. Lewis?
Yes.
Yeah, he has a whole chapter on eros.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I love his writing on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really cool. Do you, when you're thinking about your own relationship and relationship for others, do you feel like the love languages that are so popularized matter?
Very slightly.
Okay.
So I guess what I would say is it's always good to know who your partner is and what speaks to them.
All right. So it's more important to know the love languages than to have similar love languages.
Oh gosh, yeah. And I'm even kind of guarded around those love languages. The reason is because I think a lot of couples use them manipulatively.
Yeah.
Like, you're not speaking my love language. I do not feel loved. Okay.
Right.
So you have to do this thing because I just can't understand any other way to be loved.
It's limiting.
It's very limiting, and it's often used to kind of extract validation as opposed to just knowing who your partner is.
Mm-hmm.
So if it helps you know better who they are, sure. And if it helps you make decisions because, hey, I know it means something to my spouse if I get them a gift, even though that's not my thing. I just know that she or he likes that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I think it's a great thing to do. It's coming out of your agency.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's got to be more than 5 love. I mean, there's like, how to say it? Just knowing your spouse,
Right.
You're going to realize what things really matter to them and speak to them. But I also think, just like, I could have argued my love language is affirmation. Is that one of them? Yeah. So therefore, John, you should be telling me what you love about me.
Yeah.
I just think part of growing up is like seeing that's not, he's not an extrovert. He doesn't live in the world that way.
Right.
I chose someone purposefully that kind of wasn't that.
Yeah.
And so stop punishing him for not being exactly what I need.
Yeah,
now, I could say, like, I always love it when you say those things.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that you're different than me.
Yeah.
So it's okay to reveal yourself and say, like, that does always speak to me. I always love to hear it from you. But I'm not going to badger you for not just doing what makes me feel good all the time.
Yeah.
I want to be more than that. I want to be able to love another person.
Right. Yeah. I like that. I think it is really limiting to say, like, okay, there's 5 ways to show love.
Yeah. No.
Right. It's like there's a million ways.
There's a million ways.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's a million ways. And it's like, what is actually needed right now? What's actually the way to be kind to this other person? What is the way to actually make room for them to know who they are? I mean, who cares what language it is? That's your goal is their well-being.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked with people that really, I'm sure you have, but just really struggle with physical touch, period? Like, it's not necessarily that they're repulsed by their spouse's touch, but they just struggle to enjoy physical touch. How do you work with them?
Well, I would say, first of all, there are people that probably have neurological challenges around that, so that physical touch can be aversive for just biological reasons. What I have found more commonly is that people associate touch with a kind of taking. And it's aversive because they're dysregulated in the touch. So, like, I have people that start to dislike, they don't want their spouse to touch them. It's aversive. But if they're touching their children, it's not aversive.
Right. So it's not actually touch.
It's not actually touch. It's the meaning of the touch. And one of the things I teach in my courses is how much meaning shapes pleasure and desire. Because we want to be free. We want to feel that in being sexual, it's expanding our sense of self, not making us have to be something for someone else. And so if you feel like every time your spouse touches you, you're getting obligated, it's going to be super aversive.
Yeah.
No matter, it's not even a technique problem, it's a meaning problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so then I'm trying to deal with the meanings and help them see, like, is it that the spouse is actually taking, and or is it that the receiver on that side is so walled off and anxious that they can't process touch in a way that would actually lead to pleasure because they're trying to control their availability to the marriage as opposed to learning how to be themselves in the marriage.
Yeah. Wow. What we'll wrap up here, but what is your advice for someone like me that is just out there dating, trying to envision all these things for the future, but doesn't really maybe have a great way of practicing in the meantime, right?
Well, it's an imperfect process. I mean, so much of me getting married was just coming to terms with finiteness.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, so there's something about really choosing another person that is challenging. If you're awake enough to see, like, I'm not marrying someone who's going to solve life's problems for me or make me happy at all times. I'm choosing another real person who at times will drive me crazy and still going to choose it. So which person do I most want to be driven crazy by at times?
Right,
I think that's kind of what the question is like. And sometimes that just comes down to that you just, at least for me, it was like I just couldn't end it with John. For a while I couldn't choose in, but I couldn't choose out either. And just something about him compelled me. It was sometimes what I call it's like super rational. It's like above rationality. It's something that the soul longs for. And so it's like allowing that to be real information for you. But give me your question one more time, just so I make sure I'm covering what you were asking.
I think you covered it.
Did I?
Yeah,
okay.
It was great. What is another question just came to my mind? I mean, what is for you your favorite thing about love?
Gosh, with my husband specifically?
Yeah.
I mean, let me think. It's just the sense of friendship. It's that I have a person that is home, I go do a lot. I outdo these things. And there's just something about coming home. And there he is. And he loves me and he knows me. And it's a place of comfort. It's a place of pleasure. It's a place of friendship. And, I mean, especially in a world that's so fractured and uncertain and losses everywhere, to just have a friend is it's worth creating.
Yeah.
It's worth creating.
Yeah. I feel like I could pretty easily tell from the relationships I hear about if they're great or not by is there a sense of dread in going home?
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you've been out of town for 5 days and you're kind of like, all right, I got to get back to the wife. I'm like, kill me.
No, that's not good.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
But there are some that are like, dude, I'm just so excited to go see my wife.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
That's,
Exactly. And no, I have had plenty of clients that would like come home from work and sit in the driveway for a while because they don't want to walk in. And that's really important to deal with as a couple. Like what's happening, that being here feels aversive, and how much is it about the one at home and how much is it about the one coming home? But can we learn to love each other?
Yeah.
Those are just such important life questions. And, this is like kind of the crucible of marriage is like, I've either got to learn how to really love this person and take on that challenge or suffer the pain of separation, which is also so painful. And so which pain do I choose? And often that's where marriage puts us is what am I going to do with my unhappiness here?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I know you don't even really know me, but do you have any questions for me?
Oh gosh. I mean, let me think. I can't. Let me just think about what I would want to know.
It's just usually how I end the podcast, but.
Well, maybe just tell me why you do the podcast and what your goal is.
I think I just became obsessed with the human experience
Yeah.
and what it means and how it's so different for everybody. And I felt like if I could sort of peer into it, almost be a voyeur at times,
Yeah.
that I could, better my own relationships, better my own understanding of what it means to be a human.
Yeah.
And so, when I started it, it probably didn't have that much depth. I was just like, I like talking to people.
Sure.
It'll be fun. I can ask whatever questions I want. And then it became a really beautiful thing that I really value, because I feel like every human has such a vastly different experience than you do. And so to be able to learn from them is a really special thing. And it's this format that we're doing, it's so different because, say I met you at some networking event.
Yeah.
Maybe we chat, but it's probably for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I get a text and I walk away.
Yep.
Right. It's just a unique thing where I can sit down with oftentimes a stranger.
Yeah.
And talk for 2 hours and pick their brain.
Yeah.
And I don't know where else you get that.
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. That's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for joining. Like I said, I read the introduction to your new book that comes out. It's available August 12th.
Yeah. Right? It's a pre-order link at August 12th.
That we might have joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
So if you could sort of encapsulate in one sentence what the book is about infusing joy into a marriage?
Yeah. I'm borrowing a scripture from my faith tradition, from the Book of Mormon, of that we are that we might have joy, that's really what we're here for. Yeah. And yet so often in religion, we live as though long-suffering is God's plan, kind of like miserable obedience, and the reward will be in the next life. And nowhere is the possibility of joy kind of greatest than in marriage. So that is to say, because of the fullness of what a relationship can be, that we really can know joy through the body, and especially in intimate love. And so it's really a book about kind of what are many of our inherited traditions. And they're not, this is just many of us as Christians or growing up in conservative religions learn to fear sexuality. And so I'm taking what I see as, when we inherit that meaning, how it challenges marriages and fundamentally creates a division within ourselves and within our marriage and even within our relationship with the divine. And so we have to heal that relationship to be at peace in ourselves and to create something intimate and rich. And in that, speaking of C.S. Lewis, who talks about erotic love or eros love, is that in that coming together, we can actually touch divinity. We can know something at a deeper level in the masculine and feminine coming together. And so it's just showing people what that process is, how we can use marriage to grow and to learn, and how we can actually forge more peace with ourselves, more peace in our marriage, and more peace in our sexual relationship.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because I think so many people view marriage as almost just part of life. It's sort of a logical next step in your progression as an adult, instead of viewing it as like this wonderful thing that can bring the most joy in life.
Yeah. The happiest people, the research suggests, are, first of all, 50 or older. Yeah.
Congrats.
And so they've kind of gotten through a lot of the anxieties of life, but they're married and that they enjoy the marriage. So that is that there's just something about creating that level of a connection that really is just good for us. Of course, not everybody will create that. You can create meaningful relationships. So having meaningful relationships is the most important factor in happiness. And of course, marriage is one of those, and an important one of those. But yeah, I think that if we don't understand what marriage can be, then we have a hard time creating it if we are married.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to put in my calendar when I turn 50 to be really happy. Something to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.